Baba is a respected figure, but there was a power vacuum, and he took it. Or at least he attempted. Then the Genz came back and said, "Hey, you're not representing us." So
he was asked, who is we?
We, right? So we are going to have to, whether or not Genz want to, either we take that power, we fill that power vacuum, or someone will fill it. He misunderstood his mandate. And the Genz have been trying to. What they are trying to do is to remind him that we put you in place, first and foremost, to protect our sovereignty, our economy, our people. And then they even came in saying things like, no Kenyan is ever going to have to worry about, being abducted and these kinds of things. And then
Extrajudicial killings.
Immediately you get into office, the first conflict you have, that's what you default to. So I think... President Ruto, he misunderstood his mandate. So, and it came with this arrogance that we're describing, because he thought he came in because he had convinced the population that he was the better candidate to
he was not dynasty.
He wasn't dynasty, basically. That was the idea.
He was a new guy.
He was a new guy.
Up. Yeah.
Kenyans elected him specifically because they wanted these economic issues dealt with. And the arrogance that we're describing, from the kind of like lavishness that you see in cabinet, this kind of foreign trips, and if he's doing it, you can imagine what his underlings are doing. He misunderstood his mandate. And the Genz have been trying to, what they are trying to do is to remind him that we put you in place, first and foremost, to protect our sovereignty, our economy, our people. And then they even came in saying things like, no Kenyan is ever going to have to worry about, being abducted and these kinds of things.
Extrajudicial
killings. Immediately you get into office, the first conflict you have, that's what you default to. So I think he misunderstood his mandate, and unless he comes back to the basics, right, and not do things like appoint his cousins in half of the government agencies, unless he comes back to the basics, I don't see his.
I wanted to echo Mika's
success.
I wanted to echo Mika's point when it comes to communication, because in fact, in the first place, and somebody, and I think it was Eric Latif who pointed this out, the authors of the finance bill was not the finance committee; it was Treasury.
Yes,
those are the guys who should have been making rounds, not Kimani Kuria, not that other idiot from Mbere North, that Ruku guy. Like, even the roundtable that they were having, and you're trying to explain the motor circulation tax, and you cannot. It should have been Professor Ndungu. Those guys are the ones who should have been making rounds to explain to the people.
They explain the bread tax was because of
diabetes. They can't do that. Oh, and by the way, one of your constituents says hello. And you're supposed to play golf with her some time back. Unamkumbuka?
Okay.
Umetaja jina? Yeah, I've sambaza the message. I don't know if she wanted the name.
Barbados for birthdays and now playing golf. But anyway,
are you a golfer?
Are you a dynasty?
I'm not a dynasty.
Are you a golfer?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So apparently you're supposed to.
By the way, Fairfax County has a very good public golf system.
Okay.
Golfing,
Okay.
program. So. Dynasty.
So are you saying that their fees are not as expensive as other regular?
They are publicly owned. The golf courses are public. It's like 9 or 10 publicly owned golf courses. So
okay, so
so it's only free ama 10 bob.
Ni kama 15 bob.
I'll just give a generic name, and it one Jerry.
Okay.
Jerry.
Sawa. Okay.
You might not be able to go back home. What I would suggest, that guy who brought the message, uone vile gari yako unaweza ingia. He is.
Now another thing here, the decentralized nature of the protests back home, or the way they're being referred to as leaderless, partyless, fearless, and tribeless. And of course, this is unlike anything that we've seen before in Kenya or even across Africa. From your assessment, how long might this last before Gen Z seriously should start thinking about having a political formation for election 2027, regardless of what happens, even if they're able to take out Ruto? But how long do you think this will last, or maybe what do you think they need to start doing? Because what they're doing right now so far is working, but at what point should they start now thinking of a political formation? Or are we also, like looking from a perspective of learners, because we're also learning?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what Gen Zs ultimately want, right? It sounds to me from many of their demands that what they're gunning for is political power to decide the destiny of their country, right? And I'm very pragmatic in that respect, because power is not given. It's fought for and taken. And in a democracy, where that happens is at the ballot box. So ultimately, just like Sabasaba in the past generations, and even Mau Mau, eventually they coalesced around political organizations, right? They coalesced as a political force. In the Mau Mau case, one of the big failures of Mau Mau, by the way, if you remember, is that the leadership did not transition from the struggle into political power. And a lot of them were left out of the national discourse afterwards, and that poverty has persisted.
But then there's usually that argument where, like, the revolutionaries, like, they're good at doing revolutionary work, but not necessarily.
So there's a balance. There's a balance to be struck. Successful revolutionary movements, like, and when I say success here, is you come up with a revolutionary idea or position and then transition that into governing. We've seen that in Cuba. We've seen that in certain parts of the Middle East, with varying levels of success. The caution here is that the Gen Zs have created a power vacuum, right? Everyone is now wondering, okay, wait, my method of governing doesn't work. Ruto is firing his cabinet, so there's a power vacuum, and it's not going to stay empty. Someone has to take it. We have to make sure, by hook and crook, that space is taken by those who are representative and can speak on behalf of the Gen Z movement.
Okay.
If we don't do that, likely what is going to happen is going to not be the Sabasaba case, but it's going to be the Mau Mau case. They're going to be locked out of power, and then these problems will persist. So personally, I think in short order, strategically, they should start to think about forming a political movement to now take those issues to the ballot box and then directly to the other arms of government.
Could they create this political movement within the same model they have of let's not call it leaderless, and I mean the word decentralized, I actually got it from you, whereby wherever there is need, like unajua, so sisi Waislamu kuna hadithi inasema like whenever you're traveling, I think is it 2 or more people, even for as small a task as that, you're required to select a leader amongst like the 3 of you for that, just to accomplish accomplish that small task. So I'm saying within that decentralized nature, do you think they should maybe start like looking for those leaders, for example, on demand?
Those have emerged already, right? So by default of the way political protests work, there are those who will come out and be the most vocal, or those who will be targeted, or those who will come out and speak up and come out and organize, right? That has already happened. So it's not even a matter of like trying to figure out who are the leaders or who can actually take up those positions. But you already have young people who have come out and they're giving very eloquent speeches and be able to articulate the issues very kind of forcefully. So, we are not saying that the movement becomes about the political actors,
discourse,
the political actors actually. But amongst those, there has to be a political movement, because not everyone is going to become a politician. Like when you look at Sabasaba, our previous Chief Justice Mutunga, at some point he was actually being asked to become I don't know if you remember this, but at some point he was being fronted as the front runner for the presidency, and he refused. He said, I am not a politician. So not everyone is going to be a politician. People are leaders in different respects, and you need people who are human rights defenders in those agencies. You need people who are good and ethical lawyers sitting in the judiciary. You need people in all arms of government.
Yeah.
So Gen Z need to start thinking about kuchukua usukani
within that movement.
To take that, to take the reins of
because
leadership.
I think what over the years attracted all kinds of shady personalities to political spaces is the amount of money that was being, not necessarily even being earned, money that was being stolen. So I think that's what ended up attracting a lot of people, because those are the ones who ended up
they're very good at it,
right?
Getting
rich. But I think if we get a system where now, like, you can make money in the private sector, a good economic system where you can make money in the private sector, I don't think there will be that much of a thirst to want to go there. But then, of course, there are also these other people who are not necessarily part of the Gen Z movement, but have come out to defend them. For example, the LSK chair, Faith Odhiambo. You know, you have people like Okia Omtata. You know, these are figures that they can already see that even before this movement came along, these were people who are trying to talk on our behalf and articulating, you know, like some of the issues that we are asking for.
And the caution is, again, I want to just kind of end on this point. Power is not given. It's not donated. It has to be earned. And in Kenya, being a constitutional democracy, which is what we want, we don't want to leave a power vacuum where negative or this kind of unethical actors. Yeah, because mshaiona ikifanyika. See, well, Baba is a respected figure, but there was a power vacuum and he took it. Or at least he attempted. Then the Gen Z came back and said, "Hey, you're not representing us." So
who is we?
We, right? So we are going to have to, whether or not, you know, Gen Zs want to, either we take that power, we fill that power vacuum.